Hello, it's Ranger Olivia here, and today we are going to learn about the water cycle by making our own terrarium. We are going to be making a closed terrarium, which means it will be covered and you do not need to water it. It will be like its own tiny plant world that will take care of itself. In this tiny plant world, the plants will have everything they need to survive. It will have soil, sunlight, and water, but the interesting part is how they get their water. Instead of constantly watering these plants, this terrarium will recycle its water the same way our planet does through the water cycle. The water we have today on our planet is the same water we've always had. We can't gain or lose water. Instead, the water is constantly cycled through our planet. When it rains outside, most of that rain goes into the soil or bodies of water like lakes and oceans. Then, when the sun comes out, it warms up some of that water on the surface, and it changes into what we call water vapor. You may have seen the same thing happen when you boil water on the stove. Some of the water changes from a liquid to a gas, like the air we breathe. Once the water turns into a gas, it rises up into the sky. Eventually, it reaches a point in the sky where it gets cold again, and the water vapor turns back into a liquid. The little droplets of water gather into a cloud, and when the cloud gets enough water, it falls back to the ground as rain, and the cycle starts all over again. The same thing is going to happen in your terrarium on a much smaller scale. After you water your terrarium once, the sun will heat up the water and turn it into vapor. The vapor will rise to the top of the jar and cool and condense back into liquid. You may even see tiny droplets of water running down the sides of your jar, just like a rain shower. Not only are they easy to care for, they are easy to make. Here's what you'll need. A clear container that can be closed. It needs to be clear so that the sunlight can shine into the terrarium and start the water cycle. Here I'm using an old pickle jar. Plants that like high humidity and part sun or shade. Plants like ferns and mosses work great for this. You may want to buy some at the store or search in your backyard. Here I bought some small ferns at a nursery and collected mosses from my backyard. Look for plants in areas that are wet and shady because this is the type of environment you're going to be recreating in your terrarium, and these plants will do great. Small pebbles, I used rocks that you would put at the bottom of your aquarium. Some potting soil, and some charcoal. This is optional, but if you want your terrarium to last a long time, this will help keep the water clean, which will help keep plants healthy. Lastly, you can use some decoration to bring your tiny plant world to life. Once you have gathered your supplies, you are ready to build your own terrarium. Start by cleaning out your container. Then, lay down your pebbles about an inch thick. This helps the water drain out of the soil, making it easier to turn into water vapor. Next, put down your charcoal about a centimeter thick. You don't need too much. Then, fill about half your container with the potting soil. Now it's time for plants. Lay the moss on top of the soil and plant the plants like you would any other plant, making sure their roots are covered. If you have decorations, now is a good time to throw them in as well. Lastly, lightly water your plants to get the water cycle started. Then, it's time to close the lid and watch your little plant world do its thing. Keep an eye on your terrarium for the first few weeks. You may need to open it up to let some water out, or you may need to put some water in. But for the most part, the plants will happily adjust to their new homes given some time. I hope you enjoyed making your own terrarium. Go to theparklands.org for more fun and educational videos.